local and international
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 4th of August. We are back on episode number 3 with Mr. Jason Anderson, who is my guest this wonderful afternoon. I just want to welcome you all to this epic episode. You know, one of the greatest episode. Today we are here and we'll be bringing you guys exciting news. And I would like to apologize for a technical glitch that we had just on our just few minutes ago, you know, but we are back this wonderful afternoon. I'll be joined by my guest, Mr. Jason Anderson from INQAKU and MYSAFA. He's heading the MYSAFA project. So I'm super excited. But before that, you know, there is this ad that I would like to single out. Let me say, I would like to shout out to Ishmiza SA, Ishmael Masuku, who have done us a very wonderful commercial ad, you know, for Golden Drifter Sports TV. Shout out to you, Ishmiza SA. Thank you so much, the Kasi Sheriff, you know, for that wonderful ad. We appreciate you for that. Enjoy that as I'm bringing you guys my guest this afternoon, Mr. Jason Anderson.
For all your local and international sports updates, news and highlights, Golden Drifter Sport TV, live every Tuesday and Thursdays, 2 p.m. with your host, Dr. Proud Shoko. Please subscribe on our YouTube channel, Golden Drifters TV, and follow us on all social media platforms, Golden Drifters FC, Bazobon. For all your local and international sports updates.
Okay, it seems like I'm finding it quite difficult to connect with Mr. Anderson, so I'm just trying to invite him over so that he can join me this afternoon. I'm very excited to have Mr. Anderson online today. So
2 p.m. with your host, Dr. Proud Shoko. Please subscribe on our YouTube channel, Golden Drifters TV, and follow us on all social media platforms, Golden Drifters FC, Bazobon.
This is wonderful. Yes, I think, Mr. Anderson, you need to switch off your phone and switch it back on so that we can, and then we can try to connect again. So you can switch off your phone and try to connect and switch it on again so that we can see if you'll be able to connect once you have restarted your cell phone as well. So please, Mr. Anderson, you can just switch off your phone and then come back again. I'll be here. I'll be waiting for you. Hopefully, we are going to be able to connect with you because we are super excited to have you. And a lot of coaches, they want to know, they want to ask, particularly about INQAKU, MYSAFA, you know, the system, how it works, how it goes around. So please, Mr. Anderson, my guest, is just trying to log in. He's finding a bit of a challenge. Spuda is here. Spuda Masina. Welcome, my brother. Welcome. You know, so I'm just having a challenge to connect with my guest. I've asked him to restart his phone so that he can be back. But in the meantime, this is the Golden Drifters Sports TV. So he is coming back. Let me see if I can get him. Because I want to get you here. Okay, super cool. Now we can go live with you, Mr. Anderson. I can go live with you. I'm just requesting with you. I'm happy now that I'm able to connect with you. Please do accept the video that I'm requesting you, Mr. Anderson.
Proud. I apologize.
Thank you so much. Finally,
First, let
you're
me
here,
apologize.
man.
Yeah, that was poorly done, especially for someone who works in technology. This is a new experience for me. I thought for sure I'd be able to do it from my desktop, but this is a phone only platform, right?
I mean, I got so disappointed, man. Like, okay, how does Jason fail to just connect and, you know?
My fault, my fault. But I'm with you now, and happy to be
Yes,
here.
yes, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm so happy to have you, Mr. Anderson, and thank you so much for actually accepting the invitation. Because I mean, we have this show, you know, and everybody is super excited to have you today. And I've said to the viewers that, you know what, if you don't have data now, you can access this you know, broadcast later on, you know, so that they can listen to you and hear what you're going to say. But I'm so happy, and I can. Are you in quarantine?
Yeah, even I've been under quarantine just like everybody else. I'm doing my part. I've been I live in a place called Cape St. Francis in the Eastern Cape, and it's actually been an ideal place to be quarantined, I guess. There's very few cases around here. It's very rural. And normally the drawback is that I have to travel back and forth to Joburg a lot or Cape Town or wherever for work. But for the past few months, there's been very little travel for work. So in that respect, it's been fine. But yeah, just like everybody else, doing my part, trying to stay inside, wear my mask, wash my hands, slow the spread, and flatten the curve. And it seems like we're finally, maybe in the last few days, there's some positive signs, eh?
Yeah, definitely, definitely, man. Let me get to it. Let me get to it. To the show this afternoon. And I just want to say to the viewers, if they've got any question to ask, okay, viewers, you know, no political questions. This is all about sport. This is a sports show. I've got Mr. Anderson here. I mean, if you ask him any deep question, I mean, trust me, he's not going to answer that. So, Mr. Anderson, let me say this: you are protected. You are protected this afternoon. So. I just want to get to it. I mean, I think let's start there. I mean, who is Mr. Anderson? Who is Mr. Jason? And I want to get to how did you guys come up with this wonderful, 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 amazing system that you guys are having, and to get all the database. And I should say, I mean, myself, I've gone so much in South Africa, down in the rural areas, everywhere, even though you haven't reached out to every single club down there. But I mean, let's start there. Who is Mr. Anderson? And then we'll go to INQAKU, you know, and I mean,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, yeah, as you said, my name's Jason Anderson. I'm, as I think you know, but and your viewers might have picked up on, I'm not originally from South Africa. I'm from the States originally. My professional background is in football. I worked for a company that was a World Cup sponsor in the 90s. So the first FIFA World Cup that I worked on was in France in 98. And then subsequently worked on 4 more after that. Lived in Japan for a while for World Cup 2002. Then moved to Germany, and then eventually moved to Switzerland to be closer to FIFA. And then during the 2010 World Cup, I was working in South Africa and working in PE actually when I eventually during the England-Germany match. I don't know if everybody remembers that, the one where Frank Lampard scored the goal that was no goal. That
Oh yes,
started all the
yes, yes,
controversy.
yes, man. Yes, I was watching that. I was watching the relief that on GDSTV. I mean, that was the daylight, Robert. I mean, I saw that there was video assistant referee by that time. I was watching that the other day. I'm like, wow, what happened there?
So the 2 things happened that day. Goal line, the need for and the demand for goal line technology was born, and I also met my wife in a bar in PE while we were watching that match, and we eventually moved back to Zurich for a few years. But in 2013, we moved back to PE, and I at that time I still worked for FIFA. I worked on the 2014 World Cup project, but then I decided that I didn't want to, there was too much travel, and I wanted to focus on South African football. Had a conversation with the SAFA leadership at that time, and mostly wanted to talk about the fact that these systems like MYSAFA were already in existence in a lot of the the big football powers around the world. Germany being the best example at that time. After the 2000 Euro, I believe it was, Germany went back home. I think they lost in the quarterfinals or something. And they looked at what they were doing in terms of talent identification and player registration and how they were using big data analytics to identify talent and move people through their talent development systems. And it was working. So by 2014, they were already seeing the benefits of that. And at the 2014 World Cup, I don't think anybody would argue with the fact that Germany was the strongest side by far.
Of course.
So in 14 years, they had completely remade the way that they identify talent and the way that they use big data to as I say, identify and develop that talent, and the result was there for everyone to see. I remember the 7-1 semifinal match against Brazil.
I mean, you don't have to talk about that, Mr. Jason, because if you talk about the 7-1, that was the worst embarrassment ever in the World Cup.
Yeah.
That was something else. And I remember
Yeah. So much was expected of Brazil. Obviously, it was their home World Cup. Everyone expected them to win. I watched that match in a room full of Brazilian technologists because we couldn't go to the match, so I watched it with my colleagues in Rio, and it was like there was grown men crying. It was horrible to watch but the fact was that the undeniable takeaway was that Germany was hands down the best team in the world. So you can learn from those. That was a teaching moment for the rest of the world, where we saw that the power of these programs that Germany had begun in 2000 had resulted in what they wanted. They were the best footballing country in the world again. And so I spoke to the SAFA leadership at that time, and coincidentally, they had already been in discussions with the Deutsche Fußballbund, the DFB, the SAFA of Germany, about using their systems in South Africa. And long story short, we looked closely at those systems. We looked at the FIFA systems that were offered at that time, and SAFA made the decision to develop their own system specifically for South African football, to support the specific way that players are registered here, to support SAFA's very specific rules around the uniform rules, and develop this centralized database that fights cheating, that allows us to make sure that players are only registered once and only once. And probably the most important thing that we only sort of glimpsed at that time in 2014 was the coming of this new FIFA 2.0 world, where we're able to integrate with FIFA's systems, assign unique FIFA IDs to every football player in South Africa or in the world, and then those IDs are used to track those players' movements as they go from one club to another, and then eventually, in the case of some of them, sign professional contracts and make sure that money goes back to the clubs that develop those players. That's the most exciting part of it today. But in 2014, we only just glimpsed that.
That's quite exciting. That's quite exciting, Mr. Jason, because now I saw you shared just recently on your platform on Facebook something about Bongani Zungu, I think an article, where I think his former clubs are going to be sharing like $3 million. I'm like, oh shit, this boy, could have, grown up in my team. Part of the 3 million, but then is it also have to do with MYSAFA as well? Where you have to share the 3 million with his former clubs here in South Africa. Does it have to do with MYSAFA as well?
Well, with Mr. Zungu, it's a little bit different story, because he played, I think his last amateur, or at least his last training club that he played for would have been Dynamos, a club that was playing ABC Motsepe League in about 2012, 2013. So I think back when it was called the Vodacom League. Okay. After that, he was signed by, where did he go? University of Pretoria. and then he went to Mamelodi Sundowns, I
Yes,
believe, and then he transferred abroad. I think he
yes,
played for the development side of a Portuguese club, and eventually, I believe his first true professional contract was with Amiens, the French club that he signed with 2 or 3 years ago. So just because of
yes,
his age, he's 27 years old, and he's been playing outside the country for several years already. We don't really have any information about him in MySAFA. There's
oh,
been we have registrations dating back to about 2015, 2016 for ABC Motsepe League, and we
yes,
can dig a little bit
yes,
further into the data that was captured in the old registration system called SAFA Online that SAFA used to use. But for Bongani Zungu, we don't have that information. So I was asking the question, looking online, I can see on transfermarkt.co.za, I can see that where he played recently and the transfers that he's made recently, but you couldn't really see. There's still no record there of where did he play when he was 14, 15, 16 years old. And so I was asking the
yeah,
question just to try to make people aware, because I don't think
yeah,
many club owners really understand their rights or understand the FIFA regulations on the status of transfer of players and how
yeah,
solidarity mechanism payments work. And the fact is, so with Bongani Zungu, I don't think the transfer is signed, but all the rumors are that there's gonna be about a £4 million transfer fee paid to move him to Rangers in Scotland, and four
yes,
million
yes.
pounds is obviously a lot of money. 5% of the transfer fee is meant to be paid to the clubs that developed
Def-
that player between the ages of 12 and 23. So the challenge has always been proving that you were the club that trained that player between the ages of 12 and 13, for instance. And if you can prove that,
and
you still have a
and
card. Mhm.
and you know, and now since we didn't have my supper by back then, it's so difficult to prove that the player was playing for you when he was 12,
Exactly.
13, 10 years old. I mean, and I remember back then, supper at LFA level and at regional level, they were just using like it was manual system, so it was difficult. I mean, they could make cards at regional level, so a player could play anywhere in the nation. I mean, could play in another province, until I think now where there's this system that you are now having, the MySAFA system, which can track a player from each and every province, because it was so difficult back then. I remember, I think back a few years ago, before MySAFA came to our LFA, I mean, we were using just the manual cards. We were just having a card making machine, and then we could make a card. So it was, I mean, a player could go and play somewhere. So it was something that was just really not, you can't really track that, because everyone can claim a player by back then, to
Exactly.
say he was training for me, he was training for me, he was playing for me, and the player could juggle clubs around, things like that. But super
Mm.
excited, man. No, thank you so much for that insight. But I mean, there is quite a great success of INQAKU and MYSAFA in terms of South Africa, in terms of from 2016, 2015 until 2019, 2020. I mean, we've seen numbers. I've seen graphs that you have been detailing. We've seen
Mm.
a lot of numbers out there in terms of registrations, and I mean, and the website is improving each and every time to time. How do you guys keep up to date with that, with so much? I mean, firstly, how many people do you guys have in your office? Because it should be quite a lot of capturing and a lot of data capturing engineer. And
We have
you
a
as the COO, how do you manage that?
we have a small team. There's 8 of us right now, I think, in total, and it's difficult. I mean, obviously, during the lockdown with football suspended, we've had an opportunity to kind of step back and look at what we're doing and make some adjustments to the software, improvements to the software, and that's what we're busy doing right now. I mean, obviously, no one would hope for the situation that we're in right now, but it is giving us an opportunity to step back from concentrating on just registering as many players as we possibly can, to now thinking about how we can use the SAFA structures and SAFA clubs actually to register more players and offer more services that are of value, especially to local football associations and clubs, and eventually to players, individual players as well. So, for instance, right now we're busy. I think you may have seen we're busy doing a club registration drive where we're gathering all the required information that we need to register SAFA's clubs that are in good standing with their local football associations, registering them with FIFA, generating FIFA IDs for them, and getting those clubs into the FIFA database so that it's the groundwork that's being laid to make sure that these clubs are compensated in the future when they develop players that turn professional. You know, in the past, especially with solidarity mechanism, where the money that's due when a player transfers internationally. Overall, like internationally, there's probably only been about 10 to 15% of the total money that should have been paid actually gets paid out to these clubs. And in Africa, it's even less. And then when you also there's another type of compensation called training rewards or training compensation that's due when a player signs his first professional contract before age 24. And even lower percentage of the money that should have been paid for those clubs, for those players has been paid. So now, by getting all of this information into the FIFA database, registering our clubs that are in good standing, as time goes on and more of these players that we've registered in our system as 13, 14, 15-year-olds eventually move on to PSL development programs and eventually sign professional contracts, we will eventually get to the point where 100% of the training rewards that are due to those clubs are actually paid. We'll be able to, in the very near future, for instance, send an SMS or an email to a club owner to say, dear so-and-so, you have a pending training rewards, FIFA training rewards claim due. Click here for the information on the player. And we'll be able to push that information to club owners, where in the past, I'm not sure. I mean, most of the time, I think a lot of club owners don't really understand how it actually works and don't have the information to actually pursue especially the smaller transactions that are done. And that's what really makes up the bulk of the money that should be paid to these clubs. You know, when a player that played SAB League maybe for Golden Drifters then goes on and plays for an MDC side and then transfers to a second division Italian side and then transfers again to a first division, you lose track. You have to actually, usually the only way club owners are made to aware of these things is when a lawyer contacts them, telling them that they'd like to help them to collect this money and for for 50% of the fee. Well, we'll be able to, first of all, notify people proactively when they have a claim due and direct them as to how to actually collect it without having to jump through all these legal hurdles or wait 18 months for it. I mean, that's what it's all about. These mechanisms are being put in place to make sure that development money that's now needed more than ever by these clubs actually does flow back.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Just then, Mr. Anderson, I mean, when it comes to issues of development and the coaches, I mean, that are down on the ground, and unfortunately, at some stage, the players themselves, they're not loyal to the clubs. You know, they end up like signing for other clubs and transferring and go to wherever. So I think with this system, which captures the information of the club and of the player, that also gives much security when it comes to the club, so that even if the player, you know, is doing everything behind my back, eventually my club name is gonna pop up there, you know, that I can at least be contacted and perhaps get something. Because I mean, sometimes, especially boys who are moving from amateur leagues to professional leagues, I mean, there is a bit of a problem there when it comes to them in terms of getting them, because when these boys are moving from amateur leagues, remember there are issues of agents around there. I'm not sure how are you guys treating that part, because we have issues where even myself at SAB level, I have to deal with people when someone is having an interest in the boy, then someone pop up and say, I'm the agent of this player. I'm the agent. This player belongs to me. This player belongs to me. I mean, such things, but it's something that comes, you know, down, I think, to these players, where they need to be educated on those things as well. Now,
The
I
players,
wanted to
the
ask
players
whether,
need to be
yeah,
educated, certainly, but you shouldn't. I mean, at the
yes,
SAB league level, you shouldn't have to deal with player agents because you should only be dealing with amateur players. So it
yes.
it is it's a sticky issue for sure. And the other part that we're missing is PSL data. Quite honestly, you've probably seen in MySAFA where we have players that are registered for a team, and it turns out that they're not at that club anymore. They've actually been signed uh, by they're playing for for an MDC team, for a PSL club, because PSL hasn't really come to the party yet, and participated in the MySAFA project yet. There's still that lack of information, but we're hoping to resolve that as soon as possible, because I think maybe what PSL doesn't, or maybe they do, understand, but PSL stands to gain from this as well. I mean, their players are actually the most likely to generate these sorts of training rewards, and PSL clubs also benefit from them. When a former PSL player goes on and transfers internationally, or when he goes on and signs his first professional contract in Europe,
Yes.
the PSL clubs are meant to benefit. And if they're not included if those player passports aren't included in our system right now, because MySAFA is the only system that's integrated with FIFA in South Africa, if the
Yes.
PSL information isn't in there, the PSL clubs will start losing out. So it's something that needs to be resolved, and we hope that we can resolve it soon.
Oh, so now you're saying that, Mr. Anderson, so you guys are working with SAFA, you're not working with the PSL, since PSL is obviously a separate independent organization or body, and then with the PSL, because PSL is affiliated to SAFA. So are you saying that players that are in the PSL, they don't have MySAFA ID numbers and FIFA ID numbers?
The majority of them don't have FIFA ID numbers at this point. That's true. So,
Is it?
but
Oh,
it's something that
yeah.
has to be resolved between now. I mean, there's a grace period between now and the first of next year when we have to resolve this problem. Otherwise, FIFA will probably get involved.
Okay.
But I mean, even as it stands today, since the new regulations on the status of transfer of players came into effect on June 1st, they
Yeah.
explicitly state that only players that are registered with their member association's electronic registration system are eligible to play football. So it's an issue that needs to be resolved here in the next few months, ideally before amateur football resumes, so that we can see in MySAFA when a player goes from a training club, a
Yeah.
SAFA SAB league club, or even a local promotion league, to being signed to the development team of a PSL club. That's what we're missing right now.
Okay, no, definitely. Now, to our viewers, if you're watching and you'd like to ask us a question, you can just comment with a question there. I see we've got Victor Matlamela who's watching from Bramfontein in Johannesburg. So if you've got any question, please do ask your question as well. Just there, we've got the FA Cup. I mean, the FA Cup that played over the weekend, and Arsenal and Chelsea was playing. So and a friend of mine was supporting Arsenal. Then they won. Arsenal won. I mean, after a long time. And I said to him that, you know what? As long as the FA Cup goes to Wembley, I mean, it doesn't come back. It is going to stay there. Anyway, I'm here this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, with Mr. Anderson. He's breaking it down to us. I mean, coaches, if you are listening or if you listen to this, these are small nuggets that we need to understand. And we know how the system works. You need to affiliate firstly within your LFA so that you can enjoy, and you can be part of the MySAFA system. I mean, this is a digital system that is coming. I mean, I've seen, and it have made our lives, Mr. Anderson, I should say, very easy in terms of tracking players. And yeah, of course. Now, you said you want to discuss with us in terms of the domestic compensation, training compensation, and also how the system is currently being broken. Are you having any challenges with regards to that? I mean, can you share with us an insight on that?
Well, I mean, there are challenges actually. Currently SAFA's regulations on the status of transfer of players that governs training rewards domestically is not followed, and perhaps not even enforceable. It's unfortunate, but it's something that SAFA is working on right now to redraft and re-ratify their regulations so that they're more in line with the international standard, I'll say. Right now, the challenge is that it's usually the rewards that are paid by a professional club when they sign a professional player to the training clubs. It's left a lot of times to the agents that are doing these deals. It's left in some cases to the players, asking the players flat out, which clubs did you come from, where did you play as a youth, where'd you play your junior football, and those mechanisms they don't work very well, quite frankly. So we're working with SAFA to try to plug those loopholes so that it's applied more evenly. And there's other challenges that we've learned of just recently as well. When we talk about why I hear people say over and over again that when they in these cases when players sign professional contracts, and it seems as though the player was born at age 18 and there's no history of where they played before that. And there's a number of reasons for that you've touched on. You mentioned that there used to be, before MYSAFA, there were multiple registration systems that weren't integrated. And so a player could potentially be signed in multiple clubs, playing in multiple leagues simultaneously. And in those cases, none of those clubs are going to get compensated. It's also true that some of these players don't want to talk about where they played and when and what leagues they played in as a youth, because in some cases there was some age cheating going on there, and so they would rather forget about it, and they don't want to talk about where they played during those times. But those things will rapidly become a thing of the past. I mean, I think you saw recently FIFA announced that MYSAFA has registered more players and issued more FIFA IDs than any other electronic, FIFA integrated registration system in Africa. And number 15 in the world, we're around 325,000 players that we've registered with FIFA so far. And that's going to have a real benefit to South African football over the coming years. It's going to mean that more money is channeled into development at those clubs than in other countries. It's going to mean that our clubs are rewarded at a higher rate than clubs in other countries, and you'll start to see those benefits. More money going into the system means more coaches can be hired, more resources can be dedicated to developing better players, which results in more professional players, which churns more money back into the system. It's a nice flywheel that can genuinely result in us producing better players and having a better national team.
No, definitely. And I believe we've got over 1 million players who rely just on football, or who are participating, or who are active in terms of sports in general. Because, I mean, South Africa is so wide, and with the 300 or with the 200 that that are already on the system, there's a lot more that are not even yet on the system. There's a lot more that are still to be registered, and the talent is being born every single day. I mean, the under-9 come in the system, I mean, it's quite exciting. Now, how are you guys going to manage, I mean, as MYSAFA, and how are we going, in terms of now, there's this break. I mean, football, we last played in like March, and then now we return, perhaps, I mean, at amateur, maybe at level 1, like what SAFA is saying. How are you guys going to manage in terms of catching up with your system administrators, from different provinces, regions, LFA, things like that? Because, I mean, a lot of fixtures were disturbed and they have to be postponed, and dates and things like that. Are you guys going to have some road shows where you can engage different provinces, different regions, things like that, or you just do visual trainings in terms of how can the administrators catch up? I mean, the system of MYSAFA, it needs you to be active every time. I mean, the moment you are not active for a month or so, when you go back, there are changes that are there.
Yeah, no,
And
there will be considerable changes by the time in the 6 months that or more that soccer will have been suspended. You will see significant changes to the system. We're actually we're working with a company called the Institute of Sport, excuse me, that's going to be assisting us to develop more and better training materials, including e-learning materials that we'll be able to deploy to train more system administrators, especially at the club level. As you touched on it, Proud. We've registered 300 and some thousand players in South Africa, which we're proud of, and it's been hard work doing it, and we're well ahead of every other African country in terms of players registered. But it's also true that there's actually millions of players that are that are actually playing football each year. So how do we get those players into the system? And the way that we've identified is by going to the clubs. If you look, we've got 342 local football associations. Only about half of them have named a MYSAFA administrator. So right there, you're at whatever it is, 175 or so LFAs that are actually using the system. To expect 175 administrators to register 1 or 2 million players a year is simply impossible. The capacity doesn't exist at our local football associations today.
yes,
So
yes,
one of the big changes that will be rolling out over the course of the next few years or the next few months, and when football resumes, is trying to leverage the power of the clubs to capture the information for the players that play for their clubs, because they have the most to gain by getting the information into the system. So that goes back around to what I was saying before about this club registration drive. When we're trying to register all of our clubs with FIFA, but at the same time those contact details that we get back, those will be the club administrators that will be able to access the system, see the players that are registered for your club, see your upcoming fixtures, see your logs, eventually be able to communicate with your players and fans via WhatsApp or Telegram. The clubs are where we're going to be focusing a lot of our effort, mainly because that's where we see the capacity today that exists. Every club has a vested interest in, even if you have 500 players, you have a vested interest in registering every one of those players in the system, not just the ones that are playing in senior leagues that generate the biggest registration fees for the local football association. There's a lot of LFAs that have really only focused on senior leagues where they make their most money, and they haven't been registering the junior players. But this year, we're going to try to change that. We're going to try to give them more tools that are easier to use, and we're going to try to leverage the power of these clubs like yours to get more information into the system that benefits everybody.
No, definitely. Now, there's a viewer there who have just asked a question to say, what are the requirements to join MYSAFA or to become an administrator? I think there, Mr. Jason, you can try to answer that.
We get that question fairly often.
We've got a small ad, Mr. Anderson, and we'll come back just after 30 seconds.
All your local and international sports updates, news and highlights. Golden Drifter Sport TV, live every Tuesday and Thursdays, 2 p.m. with your host, Dr. Proud Shoko. Please subscribe on our YouTube channel, Golden Drifters TV, and follow us on all social media platforms. Golden Drifters FC, Bazobona.
Yes, Bazobona. We are here. We are 15 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen. I've got Mr. Anderson here. Join me today. I've learned a lot this afternoon, and it can only happen through this show. I mean, and I know a lot of people, they will ask and they'll comment, and I'll be sending you some of these questions when I get them offline, Mr. Anderson. Then maybe you can respond, and I can post the comments on YouTube as well in terms of the official comments. So I'll engage you on that. So here's a question: says that what are the requirements to join MYSAFA or to become an administrator? This is one person perhaps who's not maybe involved in football, in a football club team, and would like to join MYSAFA and become an administrator. I'm not sure if it's to move to PE, but or to become just maybe to become an administrator
Not a
generally.
requirement.
And yes, yes.
Well, there's different
I'm not
types of.
sure. I'm not sure. Before you can respond, I'm not sure if you are hiring people because with the lockdown, perhaps you are retrenching.
We're not doing either right now. We're just trying to stay the course for the moment. Yeah, we'd love to expand, and I think there probably is the day is coming where we will be expanding sometime in the next 3 to 6 months, adding developers and adding support because, as I said, if we're going to be using the power of the club as opposed to just the SAFA structures, then the number of users that we're going to be supporting is going to go up drastically. Where, we
Yes.
have 340 local football associations, we have 50 regions, and we have 9 provinces. That's the SAFA structures. So,
Yes.
that's a little bit over.
Yes.
That's 400 bodies, and maybe on a ideally it's 400 administrators, one for each local football association at least. But when we start talking about having administrators at every club, that can be 20, 30, 40,000 clubs. It's yet to be seen how many actual active clubs there are participating in SAFA football leagues around the country. So we're going to need to ramp up our support team. I think most of the people that use MYSAFA know Romeo and Intosh, our 2 go-to phone support people. But yeah, as I say, we'll have to expand that team to support all of our club users eventually. But to answer the question, how do you become an administrator? I guess there's different types of administrators. Excuse me. The easy answer is most of our administrators work today as league admins or registrars at a local or regional football association. Those are our administrators today, and they are the ones then that are the gatekeepers for instance, which clubs at the LFA level, which clubs are in good standing with that local football association and are therefore able to be entered in a league, a SAFA league, and entered in a league in MYSAFA.
Yes.
Very soon, the administrators at those clubs, and we've already done this in some places, Football Association of Pretoria, we did a test project with them last year where most of their clubs were users of the system and they were able to directly register their players, and it worked very well. So very soon, to be an administrator and a user of MYSAFA, the easiest path will be to work for a club as a club manager, registrar, coach, whomever.
Oh, definitely, definitely. The starting point, if you'd like to become a MySAFA administrator, it starts at local level, at a local club, by the way. So you need to join a local club and become the local club administrator so that you can grow in those ranks. Now, Mr.
But
Mr.
there is,
Jason,
I'll say, Brad, there
yes.
is a career path there too. And as I say,
Okay.
we're going to be working over the next few months to create CAT-CETA and Sports CETA certified courses that people can take to actually get a certification to be a MYSAFA user. And with that, because MYSAFA is the only registration system for football in South Africa and required by SAFA, with that sort of certification, that will be that will be something that you can go and potentially find employment with a club or a local football association and move up the ladder. I mean, we've already seen, one of our former support users is the regional executive officer of SAFA Nelson Mandela Bay now. And among all of her other qualities, I think certainly her knowledge of MYSAFA was a big part of the reason that she was able to secure that job.
So now you're saying that just like we have coaching courses, we have coaching courses, we have referee courses, we will have a MySAFA course where you really need to be qualified, actually, for you to and have a certificate for you to actually be able to operate the system. That's quite amazing, because at the end of the day, like what's happening now is like train a trainer. I mean, you train us, and then we train other guys that are coming in. You know how the system works. So it'll be good when there's a certification, there's a recognition as well to say you are a system administrator under MYSAFA, and then you have done this course for a certain period of time. That's quite exciting, man. That's quite exciting, actually. You know, a program. I'm looking forward to that. I mean, that will add on the certification that we all have. I mean, you got referee, you got coaching, got MYSAFA, got everything. I mean, that is good. Now, I wanted to ask, in closing to our discussion this afternoon, I wanted to ask in terms of when you create a system administrators in terms of clubs to say club can register players on their own, isn't that going to create a bit of cheating there as well? I know it's easing the workload in terms of administrations of the LFA and the region, and then the region does the approval. In terms of photos, are you not afraid in terms of that, in terms of using wrong photos when the clubs are registering, players on their own and then submit documents to the offices? Isn't that going to
we're going to require in those cases that the club administrator upload a scanned copy of the registration form, a scanned copy of the player's identification, and obviously a player photo. And then it's still the work of the local football association administrator to review those registrations and make sure that, for instance, the photo that's been uploaded matches the photo that's on the ID that's been scanned and uploaded. There are definitely issues that need to be watched very carefully, but cheating is unfortunately something that happens at every level of the sport, and we've seen that over and over again. It's one of the reasons, and I don't want to offend anyone here who might be listening from a local or regional football association, but it's one of the reasons that we print cards centrally, so that we can be sure that a MYSAFA card has been printed once and only once, and
yes.
and it can't be duplicated. We've seen time after time where local football associations, unfortunately, will, at the end of an LFA promotion season, stack a team, add players from one team to another before they send them to the regional promotion playoffs. And that's
Yes.
one of the things that we've been able to do away with by using MYSAFA and strictly enforcing registration windows. So yeah, these problems are out there. Cheating in every form exists, and we're constantly watching for it, but we're confident that we'll be able to address it.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Anderson. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the end of our show this afternoon. What to expect this weekend? You can expect the Nedbank Cup. The PSL is back, and
Yeah,
at
hallelujah.
Orlando Stadium. At Orlando Stadium this wonderful weekend, you can expect the last four, of the Nedbank Cup, and then the PSL coming back as well, I think, in the week to come. We're super excited. Now, if you would like to know more about MYSAFA system, you can like the page on Facebook, MYSAFA. There's only one MYSAFA page on Facebook. People haven't started to do duplicates of pages, so please make sure that you like that page on Facebook. You can ask any questions there. They can respond to you in terms of what's happening. Mr. Jason, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having joined us this wonderful afternoon. Any final words? I mean, I know
No,
I
I
can
just
say
think
stay at home, sanitize, do everything, follow all the protocol. Yes. And any closing words from your side?
I just want to thank you, Proud. You've always been a supporter of our project. You've always seen, I think, from the very beginning, you and not just you, but the Westrand Football Association has always seen the value. They were early adopters of the system, strong supporters, and we've learned so much from you over the years that we've worked together. I just want to sincerely thank you and everybody in Westrand for your support. I don't think we could have gotten here without the support of people like you. And yeah, and I look forward to continuing that cooperation. There's a lot of other things that are coming that you and I have spoken about, whether it's
Yes.
offering player
Yeah,
insurance, injury cover,
yeah,
and things like that.
yeah,
Maybe I can come back on in a few weeks and we can talk about that
yeah.
as well. But for
No,
right now,
definitely.
yeah, just
No,
thanks for
definitely,
all your support. We really appreciate it.
definitely, man. Would like. I wanted to ask that just in closing to say I'm waiting for Guy to actually come back to me, and I'll send him an email as well to request for him to have a meet once everything is done on his side, because I really want to bring him here so that he can have a chat and give more insight to clubs, because I've been sharing the insurance product with the teams and they're super excited. So I said, no, I'm gonna bring the guys that you guys can have. So I said, no, I'm patiently waiting for everything to be prepared, the package, everything to come, and then we can have obviously a broadcast, which I believe the club owners will be very interested and keen to actually know more and ask questions as well, which is very important,
Yeah.
you know,
No, I
in
think
this engagement
we'll
as
we'll
well.
be ready. We'll be ready for that conversation very soon. It's something that we don't want to talk about before all the
Yes,
I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. But it's coming
definitely.
soon, and we're going to be able to offer some really high value, data driven insurance products that are going to be. I think they're going to be well received by clubs, especially. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all heard the stories of players that have been injured and not able to access proper medical care, and
No,
their careers
no,
are
no, no,
over,
no, no,
and
no,
it's just
no, no.
heartbreaking.
Now, Mr. Jason, I'll have to stop you there because that's a topic for another day, which
Okay.
which which will come very hot on.
Next time.
Which will come very hot on. That's a topic for another day, which will be much detailed and discuss and have a very exciting discussion on that. And definitely, I'll be looking forward to that. So I don't want I don't want you to take my content, and
I
exhaust
don't
it
want to
now.
spoil the surprise.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much for agreeing. I mean, wishing you all the best. Hopefully, we'll all go back to what we love the most, and especially at amateur level, man, and go back to play, because I mean, these kids, the young boys, I mean, children, they want to play. So it's so sad when they're not playing. But well, this is what we didn't, unprecedented moments. We didn't plan for this. We didn't know it was going to happen. So, no, thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate your time, Mr. Anderson. And please pass my regards to the whole crew of MySAFA
I will.
and to
I will.
everyone
And
there. Mr.
I'm
Romeo,
sure
Mr.
they
Romeo,
say the
Mr.
same.
Romeo has been doing a wonderful, wonderful job. That man is so patient and about his work. And I mean, and there's a lady now who's also working. I mean, thank you so much, guys. You've been very helpful, especially on my side, because I know sometimes I bother you guys too much, but
Never.
it's the only way I've been growing in the system. And I'm so happy I managed to do my league fixtures, postpone my fixtures, catch up games, all those things. So I started to enjoy the system, just the virus have just disturbed me, because I was enjoying the system, postponing, bringing games, all those things. It was exciting. I mean, if you can check at my LFA, it was for the first time this season where the log standing being published very well. I know the first season, it was a chaos. You were like proud, your LFA is chaotic. You need to start operation. And only this season, everything was up to standard. Everything was just up to date. So it was quite exciting, and there was no hassle with teams. They were seeing everything happening, everything being updated. No, thank you so much, Mr. Jason. We appreciate your
Thank you,
time,
brother.
man.
Thank
And
you for
keep
your
safe,
patience as
keep
well.
safe.
You too.
No, thank you
Cheers,
so
buddy.
much.
We'll chat soon. Bye bye.
Okay, man. Yes. That was it with Mr. Jason Anderson. You have heard it, ladies and gentlemen.
Sport TV, live every Tuesday and Thursdays, 2 p.m. with your host, Dr. For all your local and international.
We are closing it. We are closing it. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. It was exciting.
Thursdays, 2 p.m. with your host, Dr. Proud Shoko. Please subscribe on our YouTube channel, Golden Drifters TV, and follow us on all social media platforms.
Thank you.
Golden Drifters
See you
FC,
on
pass
Thursday.
on.
See you on Thursday. We will be back on Thursday with another exciting guest. We are saying goodbye from me, Dr. Proud, your host. I'm leaving you with this song, Umvulo. You know, so thank you so much. Thank you so much. May God bless you. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you all. Thank you, our wonderful viewers. This video will be available on our social media platform. And please subscribe on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Golden Drifters TV. You need to subscribe there so that you can be kept updated. Thank you so much for joining us. See you on Thursday, same time, same place, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Thursday, I'll be having another guest to join you. I'll be bringing you nothing but the sport. All the best to the Nedbank Cup semi-finalists that are playing at Orlando Stadium this week. We wish them all the best. And as football returns, we'll be bringing you some insights, some deep news on Thursday. You know, thank you so much for joining us. For me, Dr. Proud, I will see you guys on a Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. Golden River Sports TV. Bazobona, subscribe today. Thank you.